clear his name.
Well, and is baiting him, too, because and Noel Casler, thank you for being here. I have been coveting having you on the show for quite a long time. So thank you. Because you actually know Donald Trump, you know, and there are not that many people that have had what I don't know if you call this the benefit of being in his presence, actually seeing how his mind works. Right. But, you know, it's not just the trappings of the office of president that have protected Donald Trump all his life. It's the trappings of being rich and of being famous. And so he's gotten away with everything. And so the Donald Trump that you know, can you see any possibility that he could be baited, which, let's just be clear, the committee's kind of trying to bait him to come and testify. Can you foresee him ever doing that?
Absolutely not. As much as I would enjoy it, because it would be must-see television, because he would melt down like he did in his 14-page rant. But there's no way he would, because he's too vulnerable. He's not going to swear under oath to tell the truth. And he couldn't compose himself for the amount of time that the committee would, you know, interview him. And the thing I know about Donald Trump is there's sort of two Donald Trumps. There's the behind the scenes guy who knows what the deal is, right? Who knows he lost the election. And then there's the public face of Donald Trump that he hides behind the trappings of wealth and, you know, having ex-police officers around him and Secret Service and the flag and all these kind of things he uses to intimidate others. And his world is crumbling now. I think yesterday was one of his worst nightmares because people were seeing that he knew he lost, and they were also seeing Nancy Pelosi showing real leadership. So I don't think there's anything in it for Donald Trump to testify, and I think ultimately he's a coward.
Well, and I mean, he's already been exposed now, Noel, as not being a billionaire, never having been a billionaire, not being as rich as he said. That's now clear. He's been exposed as clearly a derelict president, as somebody who didn't really know how to do the job and was incapable of doing the job, and then who also led an attack on the United States. Can you get inside, you know, Donald Trump wanting to stay president for life? We kind of get it from his personality. But what about the people around him? How is he drawing people around him who are willing to go along with what are clearly felonies in order to keep him in office? That's the part I think most people don't understand.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing to understand. You know, you can understand it with the more craven GOP politicians that are just looking to stay in office. How he kind of attracts these people into his orbit and then corrupts them is a mystery. You know, I never talked about this before, but I went to high school with Bobby Engel. That's the Secret Service agent who Trump choked in the back, you know, of the SUV. And that guy was a Marine, a straight shooter who had a long career in the Secret Service that was distinguished. And then Trump comes along and he has a way of sort of inveigling himself in with these kind of guys and how's your family and all this stuff. He smooth talks them. And then next thing they know, they're sitting in an SUV with him and he's saying, take me to the Capitol, you know, while we attack it. And I think before you know it, you're involved in his criminality. And then people worry about their own culpability and they shut up because there's a lot of people saying, hey, don't say anything. We'll get you out of this. And if you look at Trump's track record, he has gotten most people out of things, right? He hasn't really been held accountable. So it obviously shows a lack of moral clarity, but he knows how to find those kind of people. He's instinctually.
Well, and until he's not helping you at all. And that leads me to Roger Stone. So Roger Stone is one of those people who's been a consigliere of Donald Trump's for a really long time. He's sort of another one of his sort of Roy Cohn characters. Here is Roger Stone and how he reacted when he realized that Trump doesn't care about any of these people. Let's just be clear. He certainly doesn't care about Roger Stone, who's got a lot of now exposure, and he didn't get a pardon, which he wanted, and a lot of these members of Congress wanted. Kurt, I want you to react to this. Here is Roger Stone melting down.
Jared Kushner has an IQ of 70. He's coming to Miami. We will eject him from Miami very quickly. He'll be leaving very quickly. He has 100 security guards. I'll have 5,000 security guards. You want to fight? Let's fight. You. You and your abortionist daughter.
Okay, so that's supposed to be his friend, Kurt. And when I saw that, the first thing I thought was, how long before we get a video like that of Kevin McCarthy? Because on January 6th, Kevin McCarthy was also melting down like that, screaming at Donald Trump. And yet he's back to being a sycophant.
Well, Joe, it just goes to show that Donald Trump surrounds himself with, it's really this den of thieves, that they're all out for themselves. There's no real loyalty. They all hate one another in their own way, and that they're all just allies of convenience. And the minute that becomes inconvenient, someone gets thrown by the wayside. We've seen that pattern with Donald Trump over and over again throughout his life, whether it was his closest personal attorney, Michael Cohen, whether it was his former Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, whether it was his on-again, off-again romance with Steve Bannon. This is how it always ends. It always ends the same way with Donald Trump, and it ended with his people pulling their hair out, not sure what he's going to do, wanting him to do something. He changes his mind. They don't know what to expect from him, and they all end up talking crap about each other. I mean, for Donald Trump, this is a guy whose close ally here is saying these abhorrent, terrible things about his own kin, his own son and daughter, and of course, he's not going to do anything about it. He doesn't really care. Trump only cares about himself, and it just goes to show that when push comes to shove, Trump always just folds. That's why he's not going to show up to the committee hearing. That's why he's not going to testify. He is scared to death of having to confront Liz Cheney in a congressional hearing. And let's just remind people, by the way, that Hillary Clinton managed to do this for 11 hours without ever having to plead the fifth.
Yeah. Listen, she's a Cheney. You should be scared of her. I mean, listen, Aja, but let me come back to you. What do you think is the most, when you look at this sort of parade of potential peril, legal peril for Donald Trump, what do you see as the greatest peril for him, the greatest immediate peril? Because he could try and push off the subpoena and sort of play games and go to court. Which of the things do you think is going to be the most sort of perilous?
I think the most straightforward liability that he has is the Mar-a-Lago case. And that's because those are all his actions. Yeah. This is something that he created. He took the documents there. It's becoming clear that he was the one directing people to keep those documents from being returned. Yeah. And it's not one of these big conspiracies where we have to get to what someone said to him, what was happening behind closed doors. It's all him. And the evidence is, it's res ipsa loquitur, as they say in the law. You know, it speaks for itself because they were found at his property. And I think the public can understand why this is wrong. You don't have to get into, do you believe that the election was rigged or not? Right. So I think that's the main one, though I do think that both the January 6th, that is increasing in likelihood that he'll be have liability for that. Yeah. And then I think Georgia also is on deck, let's say.
Absolutely. And Noel, do you have a theory, just as an observer of this person, of why he would take these documents, why he would take national security related documents to his house?
Yeah, because I think they were valuable. And I think Trump's whole entire administration was basically a grift. He was just like, how can we profit? What here is of value that we can take and sell or use as leverage later on? That's the kind of people they all are. His kids are like that. Jared is certainly like that. And that's why I think it looks like they took nuclear documents, right? Because that's going to be the most valuable. It costs a lot of money to create the technology that's documenting, and the secrets are worth something. So, that's my theory, is that he would be taking them to sell them, to get him out of a jam. For whatever reason he could use them for himself, that would be his primary concern over national security.